perfectly. But he expects you to knock the dominoes down. There's a point when you have to pull the trigger. Let me push it a little bit harder and then I'm going to stop because I want to get to the end of the book if I have time. That sometimes what happens in the beginning of your life or in the beginning of a season looks tragic. Right? There's nothing to rejoice about when you look at a woman who lost her husband and her sons. She changed her name for a reason, right? She was in deep grief. She probably was like my friend's late wife in Egypt. She just wore perpetual black. She never took it off. She was in constant mourning. And when you would have asked Naomi what God thought about her, right? To quote her, God has judged against me. Right? Those were her words. But the real answer is that she doesn't know what God thinks about her because the story isn't over. And so I just want to say, sometimes things are terrible. But just because things are terrible doesn't mean that God doesn't think good things about you. Yeah. Sometimes tragedy is just God setting up the dominoes so that you can knock them over.
Would you say that's a test?
Yeah, it's a type of test. Yeah, it is. It's certain. Yeah, I would call that a test. We talked about trials before, right? So trials are when you do everything right and everything still explodes. There is no evidence that Naomi did anything wrong. There's not an ounce of evidence. There's not one verse in the Bible that says one cross word about Naomi, her husband, or her son. And the Bible does seem to suggest that her sons were weaklings, right? So they were sickly. But that's still not the same as being a bad guy. Right? So just because I get a cold doesn't mean I'm a stone cold sinner. Right? Okay. So we're in chapter 3. Now the story's about to turn. We're in exactly the middle of the book. God has set everything up. Let's see what happens. Let me say a little bit more, and then I'm gonna stop talking and then start reading. We are approaching the season of Pentecost, and I think that in some of your lives, God has been setting you up, although it's probably from your perspective been extremely hard. Yeah, extremely hard. And I'm sympathetic. I really am. There is almost not a day that goes by that I don't do some writing or go into the office or do ministry and feel. I usually don't say it out loud, but there's probably not a day that goes by that I don't feel like a total failure. Right? The reason why I get back up is not because I have evidence that I'm a success, but I get back up because the story isn't over. The dominoes are still being set up. We are approaching the season in your life where there's going to be time for you to knock over the dominoes and not just glean, but reap. Yeah. Those are different. Not just glean. Gleaning is for poor people. Gleaning. Yep. Right? Gleaning is for poor people. We get what falls to the ground just on the edges. Reaping is for rich people. I want to be a reaper too. Sounds good to me. Those are two different mindsets. One is God has abandoned me. The other one is God is setting me up. Let me just hold on long enough. I need you to have God is setting me up. Let me just hold on long enough. All right? Okay. Chapter 3. Who's going to read for me verses 1 through 5?
Then Naomi and her mother-in-law said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz thy king with those maidens thou waist? Behold, he went with barley tonight in the thresh floor. Wash thyself therefore and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor, and make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be when he lieth down that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, All that thou saidst unto me, I will do.
Okay, now what just happened?
The mother-in-law was like, Set yourself up and get that man.
Come on.
Yeah.
Put your good dress on. Right? Get your hair did. Get your toes done.
Yeah.
Go creep into the threshing floor. You know what the threshing floor is?
Yeah.
It's nothing conspiratorial, I promise. Right? The threshing floor is just where they separate the wheat from the chaff. So in the ancient days, they would reap the harvest, they would take it to the threshing floor, they would get a big fork, they would throw it in the air, the wind would blow away the chaff, and then what would fall to the ground would be the wheat. So the reason why Boaz was out there was because it was reaping season, and so while it was reaping season, they would work all day, sleep there, sun comes up in the morning, they start back up in the morning, they just work all day. So she says, go put your good dress on. Go to where he's going to be. He's going to be working. And then, I sometimes tease my coworker. Then show him some leg, right? So just go and show him what? No, she didn't say show him some leg. She said show him some foot. Show him some foot. Which apparently was enough for men back then, right? See some feet that was on. So go, put your good dress on. I was too right. Show him some foot.
Hey, did I do that?
Right. Okay. Verse 6. I love you. You are awesome. Okay, verses 6 through 15. Who's got it for me?
So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law instructed her.
Yep.
And after that, Boaz had eaten and drunk, and in his heart was cheerful. He went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain, and she came softly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Now it happened at midnight that the man was startled and turned himself, and there a woman was lying at his feet. And he said, Who are you? So she answered, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. Then he said, Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning.
Come on.
In that you did not go after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you request. For all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman. Now it is true that I am a close relative. However, there is a relative closer than I. Stay this night, and in the morning it shall be that if he will perform the duty of a close relative for you, good, let him do it. But if he does not want to perform the duty for you, then I will perform the duty for you, as the Lord lives. Lie down until morning. So she laid at his feet until morning. She arose before one could recognize another. Then he said, do not let it be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Also he said, bring the shawl that is on you and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 ephahs of barley and laid it on her. Then she went into the city.
Is that 16? Stop being the 16.
When she came to her mother-in-law, she said,
15.
that,
15.
Okay.
That was the end of 15?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So what happened? What had happened? Did exactly what her mother-in-law, and it worked. So she went to the place where blessings are born. She went to the threshing floor. And she did exactly what her mother-in-law told her to do. And the reason why he remembered her was because she was a woman of high character. I'm still amazed that not once has anybody mentioned how beautiful or how unattractive she is. Not once. Didn't even come up. Right? So he says, you've done well twice. One, you could have picked a younger guy. You didn't. Two, look how you love your mother. So he preserved her honor by sending her away before anybody could recognize her. Because he was one of 2 kinsman redeemers. What are kinsman redeemers?
The ones that carry the name.
The ones that will carry the name for the brother, right? So remember, like guys, he has 2 relatives that could replace him, right? Who could marry either his wife or his daughter-in-law and have a child in his name. He was one of 2, and he wasn't the closest one. He said, listen, there's another guy, so I'm not going to put you on blast. Leave before anybody can see who you are. With your integrity and your reputation intact. And I just want to say, I think that's how a man should treat a lady. Leave her with her integrity and her reputation intact. That's all I got. Verses 16 through 18. Who's got that? 16 through 18. In chapter 3.
When she came to her mother-in-law, she said, is that you, my daughter? Then she told her all that the man had done for her. And she said, this 6 ephahs of barley he gave me, for he said to me, do not go empty-handed to your mother-in-law. Then she said, sit still, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out. For the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter this day.
Okay, now what does that mean?
He's going to be looking out for
He's
you.
going to be looking out for you. You don't have to put your tight dress on anymore. If he's a good man, you got his attention. Let him work. If he's a good man, you got his attention. That's all we need. Let him work. Okay. Coming in for a landing, we're in the last chapter, verses 1 through 12. Who's got it?
4.
Yep, chapter 4.
Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, come aside, friend, sit down here. So he came aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. So they sat down. Then he said to the close relative, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold a piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me that I may know. For there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you. And he said, I will redeem it. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, You must also buy it from Ruth, the Moabite, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through its inheritance. And the close relative said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was a custom in former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other. This was a confirmation in Israel. Therefore the close relative said to Boaz, buy it for yourself. So he took off his sandal, and Boaz said to the elders of the people, you are witnesses this day that I have brought all that was Amalek and all that was Chichilians in Melon from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day. And all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who's coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephraim and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman. He got the land and he let them know who's going to marry you.
Yep, I think he was so wise. When he first talked to him, he was just like, you want to buy this land? Oh, yeah, sure. It comes with a wife. It wasn't that he didn't want the land, it was that he was already happily married. So, Josephus says it was that he didn't want to ruin his own marriage. So to keep his wife happy, he said, no, I don't need a second wife. God knew what he was doing. All we had to do was knock down the dynamite. God knew what he was doing. Okay, last part, and then we're done. 13 through 17.
So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative, and may his name be famous in Israel. May he be to you a restorer of life and a nurturer of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better to you than 7 sons, has borne him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him in her bosom, and became a nurse to him. Also the neighbor woman gave him a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they call his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David.
Okay. Why did she give the baby to Naomi?
Because she lost her son.
Because she lost her son. That was the terms of the Levirate marriage. So Elimelech's inheritance goes to Obed. Whatever children they have after that, Boaz's children get. There's 2 separate inheritances. Okay. I want to say that this story is about the salvation of a Gentile. Ruth is not an Israeli. She's a Gentile. I think it's fascinating that the Jewish people read this story every Pentecost. And I wonder if they know what they're doing. Because this story is basically about how people like me get into their house. So the story of Pentecost is really about how people like us got into their house. One of the last conversations that Paul had with the Jerusalem council in the book of Acts chapter 15 was over whether or not they should accept Gentiles as believers in the way. But Paul said this, the Holy Ghost fell on them, like it fell on us. Don't miss the fall of God in your life. He can fall on the guys in the upper room. He can fall on you. He is setting up Naomi for a miracle. He is setting up you for a miracle. The number 10 represents new beginnings. God is opening up a new chapter in your life. 11. Questions before I let you go. Questions. Okay. Awesome. Let me close out, and then I want to, before we leave, can we pray for you before you go? Is that okay?
Doesn't mean anything wrong. Some people be thinking that.
Let's just go and say that he never changed.
Yes, he does not change.
Same guy yesterday, today, and forevermore. You do the same for me, do the same for you.
In fact, the story of Ruth is really the promise that he gave to Abraham coming full circle. He said to Abraham, through your seed, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And as Paul said, he saved me to show you that he can save anybody, because I was chief among sinners. The Moabites were considered chief among sinners. Right? So if you're willing to yield to God, there's nothing you've done that means He can't save you.
Absolutely.
Not one thing. Okay. Lord, we thank you for your saving power, Lord, that you go out of your way to do well by us. That you go to extreme measures to bless us and to set us up for blessings. Help us to not miss this season of reaping. Father, we have gleaned for a long time. We now walk into and receive with open hands and humble hearts our new season of reaping. In Jesus' name. Amen.